In 1990, Tascam released the famous 424. In 1991, they added onto that list the Porta 03 Mini Studio and the 488, which is the third of the line of cassette 8 tracks that they made. In 1992, they released the 464. This guy right here, which is not showing. There we are. So there's the 464. Now, I've owned this probably since 93. I'm not 100% sure anymore. I'd have to pull out my old manual, which still has the receipt on it. I know I paid a heck of a lot for this thing here. But this is my baby, as I've said. But I've never actually done a video where I talk about all the cool things that this guy has. So as I said, 1991 or 1992, sorry, I was in a band, and we had started recording at a friend's house, and he wanted to be a producer. We wanted to be a band. We wanted to be famous. You know how it is. And so I ended up sitting down and working with this at his place. He then ended up switching over to a Tascam reel-to-reel 8-track, which I have the 8-track, or I have the reel here in my drawer. And at some point I'm hoping to find an 8-track that can play it and then actually release that music as well, because that is part of my life. And as you know, I feel compelled to share the fact that I've done a lot of things. It's just part of it's part of who I am. But either way, so let's get into this. Now, when he showed me this, he loved this thing. And because he had it, and because I was familiar with it, I went out and bought one myself. And they are not cheap. They were not cheap. I think they were close to $2,000 at the time. And this is 1991. That's a lot of money. I remember scrimping and saving for it, and my parents having a conniption when they found out how much I spent on it. It was not a good sight, I will say that. So let's talk about it. So it is a 4-track. It is a lovely little 4-track here. And it's kind of funny, because when I look at this and then I look at a Model 24, and I see so many similarities in the two now. Because you have your trim. Now in this case, we don't have phantom power on this machine. So that was part of the reason why I have my only preamp that I've ever owned, which is an Art Pro Studio preamp, so that I can use phantom power on this guy. That was the main reason I bought it. That was pretty much the only reason I bought it. But yeah, if you look it down, it is a top-down design, just like a Model 24, Model 16. Like the Model series is pretty much, it follows the old 4-track way of doing things, which is you start here, everything is down here. This is your first track. 1, 2, 3, 4, your first 4 tracks. Then it has over here, this is your mixer side. This is not as fancy. It kind of peters off. So you have your first 2 track channels, your first 2 stereo channels here, and then they have faders with them. Here's the faders for those 2. And then the other 2 up here are just kind of add-ons, and they just have a level, and you can say where you want them to go. That's how this works. Pretty much what it is this is your meat and potatoes. This is your extra. This is your gravy on it. This is what you got. This is what you got extra on it. And as you know, because if I pull out my 414, which I just happen to have sitting right here. Let me just unplug it, because I was doing some experiments with it. There's such a difference in the two. See if we can show them. This is more or less your meat and potatoes, and then there's your gravy on the side, which does not have any EQ or anything. Meanwhile, on the 464, they gave you extra, and you had a little bit more EQ, gravy, and other stuff, and you can actually run. If you run stuff in here, you can actually run it through the effects as well. Kind of neat. So it's one of those things where it's cool the way this thing works. So you could technically, if you wanted to, run an effect in here, and then run that effect into the other effect loop, and then run that effect in here, and then run that one back. You'd probably cause a feedback loop, but it can be done. It's just one of those things which you can try out if you ever get down to that point. It's also good if you had synthesizers. You plug your synthesizers in here. Track 4 is your sync. So let's go on. So what other features does this offer? Well, this thing it has a digital screen. It was, I think, I'd have to look up the other ones, but I think the 424 was one that had a digital screen as well. Interesting enough, the year before, 1989, they released the 644 and the 688, which was both MIDI studio-based versions, and one being a 4-track, one being an 8-track. Hopefully someday I'll have one of those to try out as well. And then in 88 you had your 238 Cinecast, which is your very first cassette 8-track, which I don't have right now because it's getting repaired. Waiting for that. Hopefully that'll be done soon. And then 1987, your Porta 05, which I have now. I just got. And so that was pretty much where your range was at this point, what you could get from Tascam if you could find them. So, yeah. So let's talk about it. So once again, yeah, so you have 4 XLRs here on your first 4 tracks, and then you have your 1/4 inch. I'm not sure if they're balanced. I have to look that up. Do they say they are? Yes, they do say they are balanced. So they are balanced. So you can run 1/4 inch. Oh no, it just says mic line in. So I'll have to look that up. I'll put a blurb here to say whether it is or not. And then you have your stereos, which are mono if you just plug them into the left side as usual. And so you can use them as mono tracks if you want, or you can do stereo tracks. On the back, this is what was really cool about this machine. You have your inserts right here. So now if you've never used an insert, they are TRS based. You have one channel goes out, one channel comes back in, and what it does is it interrupts what's happening here. So what would happen is, and this works, and the nice thing with this, which I wish they would have done with the Model 24, which they did not, is that it will interrupt your whatever's going on here on your cassette as well. So it literally comes in at this point. So it comes in pre-EQ, but it's always there. It's not just for input on the mics. It actually does work its way here. So that's important. So you have 2 of those. You have them on tracks 1 and 2, which is why it says 1 and 2. Then you have your effects in 1 and 2, also 1/4 inch. This isn't the Porta Studio 5, which seems to be all RCA and everything. Your tape outs. Now what's nice about this is straight. You have access to each track of the tape out. You don't have to deal with having to do like some kind of rigmarole where you have something coming through effects 1, something coming through effects 2, and then the other 2 coming out stereo. Not in this case. You can just do them all. You can do them all separate. This was great because when like I said, when we originally recorded with one of these, and it got switched to the 8-track machine, he just more or less went out this, and then we had all our tracks that we had already recorded sitting there, and we could just use them again. So that was nice about that. And then here, so you have your line out, which is pretty standard. You have your monitor out, which would work off the monitor level on the board. Swing this around here a bit, trying to get this. And then you have your Q out. So that's where, if you use the Q on the system, Q being a separate connection that allows you to send your sound out, and then you can send it you could send the Q out into like a headphone amplifier if you wanted to, if you had multiple people playing, and you could just have like a click track playing or something going on there that you could just have going through it, queuing out. And then you also have your tape in, so your 2-track in. This was kind of a neat feature too. You could literally use this to listen to stuff if you wanted to, and I used to do that. I would use the 2-track in and just listen to music on it because I could do it. Kind of an interesting feature. I think it was more for when you're doing your mix down, you would listen to somebody else's recording, and then you'd set your mix to sound similar to that, and then you can go back and forth. And of course, at the bottom here, these are my favorites. So you have your in and out for your sync, and then your sync on and off. So if you turn it on, track 4 becomes sync and gets ignored by everything else and freaks you out because you think your track 4 is broken. That has happened many times to me. And then your DBX noise reduction is either on or off. I, of course, am one of those people who uses it on, and so that's why it's on. Yeah. So now, like I said, it's like a Model 24 because if you've seen a Model 24, you have live, PC, and then what's the next one? I think it's meter, MTR, so multi-track recorder meter. Generally, we call it. Most people I know call it meter, so I'm just calling it meter. And in this case, you don't have PC because this was pre anybody really getting into the PC sound that much. So you have your mic line, so that would just be one of these up here, so one of those, and then you have your tape, and in this case you have two different sets of tape. So you have tape where it would just use whatever you set the faders at here, so left or right, and then you have tape left. So this track would send whatever was coming through this into this would be sent through the left side of the recording. Oh no, oh yeah, no, that's wrong. Sorry, I'm wrong on that one. Sorry about that. But what it is so you have tape and you have mic line. So it would play the tape, but it would also have the mic line on top for the left side. So I'll have to check into that more, but I think that's what it is. I never really use it. I more or less just always went to tape and then recorded what I needed. But I think that's so that it would record the tape and it would record on the left side. So kind of like a bounce system. But I never used it that way. And so I probably did. And then same here. So this would be right, and you have left and you have right. So when you want to bounce, you would put it on these two, and then that's how it would record. Sorry, I was wrong about that. Now hopefully I've cleared that up. And so yeah, so you have your trim at the top here. So that's just your normal trim. So you got line, mic, levels. Got your three band EQ plus a mid. What is I always forget what they call that, the part in the mid. This is like kind of like a mid. It's the mid bump where you can set it. Then you have your effects in and your effects outs here, how much you want to send out, and your panning levels. And that's pretty much standard on all of them. Now on the mixer ones, on these two, on the two that are just open, you have your high and your low, and the button is a little different on this one. So you have your main, so that means you're sending it through your main system, your main bus. You have your off, so you're not using it, and your Q, which means it would come through the Q system, which is this guy right here, your Q master system there. So that's where that would go. So then you could listen to it for other reasons. I used to plug a microphone into one of these channels when I was working with somebody else if they were in a different room, so that I could talk to them. A lot of times what we would actually do is I would sing vocals on here and a guitar, and then the guitar would be played. We'd have a click track going, and then the drummer could record his drums on tracks 3 and 4, and we'd do it that way. That was always fun too. We used to do that as well. So we'd have the 3, 4 all having the drums in them, and then have them set up for mics, but not recording them, and then recording the drums on top of it. Now I'm going to turn this on for a second. I'll just pull down here. All right. Now I am not plugged in at the moment. I will plug myself in. So these are coming out, and I think there's monitor out. Oh, you can hear it now. There we go. All right, so I'm going to turn this baby on so I can show you some more stuff that it does. So yeah, so it's same here. This is left, right, so it's just sending it to the left, right channels, and then the Q. I don't know why they changed it to main to left, right, but either way, that's what they did. And so yeah, so these two channels are just low high EQ, and then you can send effects through it, effects 1 and 2, and balance. Now these, like I said, these are a little different. These are like extra monitoring channels that you can use, or extra mixing channels. They're just levels, and then where you want them to go. And so from then on, you have your tape cue here. What this does is if you are using your tape cue for listening, referencing while you're recording something else and you don't want to blend in with that, you'd run it through your tape cue here, and there's your cue master. So you would set this where you wanted, how loud, and then you would set these, and then the same with. So generally, if you're using this and you're using this here, you're going to set the cue master to how loud you get the stuff out of that one, because you don't want to blow your ears out, and then you would mix these to be your levels. And so then down here, master, effects master, just 1 and 2. That's just your mains. That's your main masters for those. So that's how loud, how much power you're throwing through them. And now we go into the monitor section here, and the monitor section. So we're gonna look at this as a whole part. So here's the transport and the monitor section. I have used this extensively. I love this thing. So yeah, your level, that's how loud it's coming through your speakers. So in this case, can't hear it because I don't have it up. I don't have it up enough. I don't have anything playing through it, so you can't hear it at the moment. Oh yeah, I also forgot your master fader right there. So, and so that's generally your best levels are the grade part. And so yeah, so then so you got your monitor level. Just slide over this way a bit, and you have push buttons here to say where you want what you want to listen to through the monitor. So you got left, right, so you can just listen to the left side, see how it sounds by itself. Right, see how it sounds by itself. Effects 1, what's going through the effects send on both 1 and 2. What is going through the cue, and your 2-track in. That's always fun. So you can actually, that's like I said, you can put a cassette player on this or a CD player, whatever you got, and then you can do 2-track in, set the fader. Actually, I don't even know if you need the fader for that. And then you can just sit here and listen to it, so you have your cassette going while you're doing something else. Yeah, what I used to do, I had a cassette player hooked up. I would do my mix down, record it onto a 2-track cassette, and then I would send it through, and I would just do 2-track in, hear how it sounds coming back to me through my own speakers, just to see if it sounded decent or not. I used to do a lot of recording with this thing. And a lot of playing around. So yeah, so that's how this works here. You can this is it's like an optional thing, so you can say what you want to hear. So if you want to hear everything, you can push everything down, or you can just have because generally what we would do is left, right, and cue. So then you would hear yourself, you would hear what's coming through the cue as well. And so yeah, that was a nice thing. All right, so let's go talk about the transport on this thing. This thing was cool. Do not ask me how to use the location 1 and 2 buttons anymore. I'd have to look it up. It has been a long time. But that is pretty much, you set your start location, you start your end location. Did this a lot for punching in and out. You can actually, this has auto punch in, which I love. Ritz is return to 0. That was generally the button to push. You'd set the cassette to where you wanted to start recording, reset it, and then hit Ritz, and then it would return it to 0 all the time. Repeat 1 and 2, same as on the DP32. Just it would start from location 1. Once it hit location 2, it would rewind back to location 1. Great for practicing things. The biggest difference is it was a lot slower than what you would get with repeat 1 and 2 nowadays, where you just, because it's digital, it's like stop start. This would not do that. This would be more, stop, rewind, start. So you had that little pause for the rewind, so you could take a breath and you get ready for the next try at it. Yeah, I had to throw that in there because that's funny. Memo in and memo check. I know I've used them. I can't remember how. I think they work. They're like the memory thing. So you could say, I want to remember a certain spot on that cassette, and I would do a memo in on it, and then it would set there, and I could go back to it by hitting memo check. So I could record something. Let's say I was doing something with vocals, and I wanted to constantly go back to that spot. I'm going to look that up. I'm going to look that one up. Rehearsal, pretty much the same as repeat. You're just rehearsing your part on that. It works the same as rehearsal on the machine, where it would cut out the channel one when you had it set to record. So if you're listening to something and you're recording the punch in, it would stop there and let you listen to. It would stop there so you didn't get interference from what you had already recorded. And auto in and out, that's your punch in and clear. Just resets everything back to where it was. You got your pitch control. Now this does run at a high speed. This is a high speed one. As if you've watched my video when I got them back, I have my cassettes that I originally had recorded with are running slightly slower than this machine, so I have to go pitch control down to minus. But yeah, you can go faster, you can go slower. One day I'm going to play with this a bit and try some stuff out because I got some ideas. I know pitch control is used a lot in old recordings. And yeah, so you have the ability to go high or normal speed on this machine. And then you had two different options for recording. You could go direct. So I could say I want to record track 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's direct in. That means that they're not going to pick up anything else. Or I can say I want to record left and right. So I could say I want to record left and right, so whatever comes in, and then I could also do I could say I want to record left and right, but I also want to record track 3 and 4. So, yeah, that's kind of a weird thing that you could do with it, but it worked. Standard cassettes down here, rewind, fast forward, stop, play, pause, and record. Yeah, this machine was just absolutely wonderful for doing stuff. And the thing is, it's pretty much, it's all mechanical. Let me grab a cassette. I'm going to grab that one that the loop cassette the guy made that I got from the Porta Studio. So, the Porta Studio 05. So let's just play it. Let me just bring these up. Sounds like it's faster. I can't tell. Yeah, so Porta Studio 5 is a low speed machine. That's high speed. It's actually recorded really quiet too. I didn't realize that. So that is my Porta Studio 646, which I am going to be using for the Fall Song Challenge. Just want to do a quick video on the machine. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I will talk to you later. Bye. It's MIDI, not MIDI. 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 Call it MIDI.